log back in, and we are beginning session 3.
Ooh.
I mean, it's amazing how fast the day actually goes, but we are now at session 3. Again, welcome back. And just to sort of set the stage, I mean, net weaving was so fun. We could talk about that. It's like once we start talking as women, we don't want to leave. So, you guys, we will create another opportunity for that. But welcome back. We went from session 1 that really set up the big picture. We went into session 2 talking about disruption. And now we're really moving to what is your role as a leader? And your ability to like steer the ship. And when you look up the formal definition of leadership, it really is defined as the act of leading a group or people of an organization. But I will say, when I think of like the quotes that impact me the most around leadership, there is a quote that says, the essence of great leadership is influence, not authority. And so today we will hear from 2 women who I actually adore. And I feel like I could introduce them more from a personal perspective than a business perspective. But we have Pamela Bivens, who has been in my life for a very long time, who's the assistant director for diversity and inclusion at Duke University, which my child is desperately trying to get into. And then we also have Glenda Stinson, who, always corrects me, like, make sure you understand my company is Georgia Power, but she has led the way for supplier diversity and has been very instrumental in also like consulting small businesses and serving as the chair of WEOP for many years. So I would like for you ladies to do a quick intro about yourself before I tell all of your personal business.
Well, that's fair, Yolanda, or Yo, that's fair, my dear. I have known you a very long time, so you all are family to me. So I'm very thankful and grateful for that sisterhood.
Yes.
Again, I am at Duke University and Duke University Health System, and I work very hard within my passion to help people understand their own humanity first, so they can understand how to treat other humans with dignity, respect, and honor, along with patients who don't look like them all the time, right? So we have to be very mindful. So I'll let Glenda introduce herself and then I'll move on.
Thanks, Pam. And hello, Yolanda. I am Glenda Stinson. I am the manager for supplier development for Southern Company Electric Operations. That is inclusive of Mississippi Power, Alabama Power, and Georgia Power. We are now a part of a newly developed organization within Southern Company, Supplier Sustainability and Inclusive Growth. So our overall target is to focus on the development, economic equity, and mutual beneficial opportunities for small and diverse businesses, the minority sector, and developing tools and resources, bringing all that we can to help promote these businesses and increase opportunities. So
that's awesome. Awesome. You guys, we're so appreciative to have you here. I just wanted to give a couple of housekeeping rules as people are like jumping back into the call. Again, housekeeping, please engage. We have the chat going. So let us know, just write in the word leadership so we all know what we're talking about here. And I know you're like awake and engaged here. You also have the Q&A section, and we will, yes, thank you so much, Ashley, for writing it. Andrea, we see you. You have the Q&A section as well. So definitely like write your questions. You guys don't forget, we have prizes. So post something. I took a picture of my net weaving session because the twins made an appearance on our like group. But definitely like take a picture, even if it's just of you in your work section, or it can be of something that's on screen, but literally hashtag what you can see on the bottom, WEOP Women. And we will be looking and searching for what that is so we can give some really great prizes. And thank you for the work that you are doing to feed yourself today. So with that, let's get into it. What is leadership for you guys? Talk to us and let us know how we can like live as better leaders.
Well, I guess I'll start. Leadership within the realm of human difference. I don't say the word diversity very often because in my environment, diversity is not a very positively well received word. So I tend to say human difference. Leadership refers to those soft skills and our emotional intelligence, which is built around empathy, respect, honor, honoring the dignity of other human beings, something we're very challenged with today. So, well, we always have been, but it's more highlighted and illuminated today. So we want to make sure we focus on our soft skills, which then builds into understanding our own implicit bias. Humans, we all have implicit bias. It is part of our human evolution. So when someone says maybe to you that I don't see color, I treat everyone the same. First of all, in 1/5 of a second, humans, our brains were wired to see human difference and race based on complexion, shape of a face, and all these other different attributes that we have as human beings. So our soft skills build into how our leadership develops, how we see and treat other people. So when you're talking about possibly having business relationships and clients in other countries, there's one thing I always want to say that I never knew until about 3 years ago, that while we smile to engage and welcome people, in some cultures, a smile makes you appear sneaky and untrustworthy. And that's in the Russian culture. So they look at humans as very smiley and untrusting because we're possibly hiding something, because we're smiling too much and we're appearing very phony. So we have to be mindful if you have clients from various cultures where smiles are very different. The other thing I want to share is always make sure that you're focused on your cross-cultural skills, which enhances your emotional intelligence, which weighs far more than intellectual intelligence or our IQ, our intelligence quotient. So we want to focus on realizing, understanding, and building our cultural awareness, which, as stated in the description, mentioned cultural competence. The word competence means that we've mastered something, that we are the full professional and subject matter expert in that field. Well, competence is something you build over a lifetime, which then we build into cultural humility. So when you're culturally humble, you're able to learn about new cultures, you're open, you're welcoming, you're making yourself a bit vulnerable, quite possibly, which makes us all very uncomfortable. But as we welcome people from different cultures into our realm of business and personal and family relationships, we are building on our emotional intelligence, which again weighs far more than the intelligence quotient. So while you have a lot of smart people around you, you also want to make sure they have a very strong EQ or emotional intelligence, which again builds into your cultural intelligence. Now, one dean at Duke in the Fuqua School of Business is building a decency quotient, or what they call the DQ. So be on the lookout for what that means. His name is Dean Bolding. He's working very diligently to build that into the EQ and CQ to the DQ. So as leaders, your human empathy, your authenticity as a person is what will build your business with people from other cultures who recognize in your humanity that you're open, welcoming, and able to learn and receive the differences about them and what their business products or business units could bring to your business success, especially as a small business. We do have to count on everyone. So I didn't know if Glenda had something she wanted to add in there. I'm not trying to monopolize because I can talk about this all day. This is my life because I'm an African-American woman, and my business, my profession, if you will.
Well, Pam, you are definitely right on point in terms of making sure as a leader that your soft skills are in alignment and that you have a cultural awareness. That is a part of being inclusive and being respectful. As a leader, that is something that we must demonstrate to our teams. Also, be mindful of and representing our brands. And so, One of the things that I also want to, share is about making sure that we are mindful from what we are offering to our customers and to our partners. And I'm going to talk about that a little later in terms of looking at the inside of our operations. We need to look at ourselves from a personal perspective, but also who are we as an operation in terms of being a business? We have to perfect every aspect of who we are and what we're offering. So I'm in full agreement.
Well, thank you. That's always good to hear and feel. Makes me feel very authentic. So, so I did want to circle back to something that I heard this morning. I did sit on the first session with Representative Schofield and Senator Anderson. They talked about the Crown Act, which I'm extremely proud of as well. So I commend the representatives and senator from Georgia for implementing such a thing. So then we start talking about that bias, right? So we know that the minute people meet us, the first thing they look at is our complexion or colorism. And somehow our hair speaks volumes to who we must be or who we must not be. So of course, as some people have learned over the years with corporate America, I think starting with the Marriott many years ago, a young woman wanted to wear her braids and they felt that was unprofessional and made her life very horrible. And I think they fired her. This was many years ago before I was aware of what bias was really all about. So as Representative Schofield did mention that we have to restore the value of Black women and of course, Black families, ethnic families, ethnic groups, because as immigrants move into the United States, there's no question they are really, really adept at starting their own businesses. So they do become business partners or community partners. So we have to be mindful from an immigrant status, what is necessary to their culture to build a strong business ethic, to build that strong community relationship, which is where we build our network or net weaving, if you want to say it. I love that. So we have to work on these biases of how we see other people and how we receive difference in others so they can see that our authenticity and we are being vulnerable to understanding and learning about who they are and how we should do business together. I look at the word diversity sometimes and I see simply human difference again, and we seem to have a very hard time as accepting the difference of others in relationship to how we see ourselves in our own culture. Being mindful that cultures are values, beliefs, and traditions of a group. We are now learning that our values are overarching for a lot of different cultures. For example, one thing very important to people of color and all people is family. If we don't build strong family relationships, we don't have a support system to then build business, build community, and to strengthen what we have as a product that other people will appreciate and respect as something, as a commodity. So we have to be mindful of those soft skills and in all of what we do. We have to be mindful even in our personal lives, because sometimes we allow business into our personal world, as what is possibly happening here with WeUp, where you're building strong ties and relationships. Some people may have trouble accepting that, you know, being friends is also part of being business partners, being business support systems, because some people see that as competitive. Where when you let your guard down, or as sometimes we say, let our take our armor off, let our hair down, and let people see that we're basically human and trying to build a most positive life in our community and for our own family. That's where your soft skills and your cross-cultural understanding of different cultures, while we're all particularly ethnic, we're all uniquely ethnic as well. And we have to be mindful of what that difference feels to some of us. For example, colorism in certain cultures, the lighter the complexion is something that some cultures value more than our beautiful darker skin complected sisters and brothers. So we have to be mindful that we don't perpetuate those types of negative biases within our own community, to help other people see and understand and respect that we do have great respect for each other. We honor each other, regardless of how different we are, so that they will receive us in a more opening mindset as opposed to what they probably learned in the media from other people who don't think much of people of ethnic descent or culture. So our way of looking at others starts with ourselves, our own self-reflection, how we view ourselves in the midst of others, which may be different when you're talking about maybe power, the power differential. When you are, I don't know, beholden to a supplier or to someone for your product, you still want to let them know that I am simply human and we're building a business relationship and we are leaders in what we do. So that's that soft skill of always being kind and open and empathetic that really builds good leaders, again, with that emotional intelligence where you have empathy for everyone.
There we go.
Okay.
Pam, I think those are awesome points from the personal perspective about soft skills and about culture. And that is a direct lead into what my topic is for today, is where we're talking about the value, right? As we look at our businesses, we need to look at them also from the operational perspective. And what value are we communicating? And in order to truly communicate that value, we have to be conscious of culture. We have to be conscious of our customer base and what their needs are. What do they consider as value? And culture is playing a big part in that. In this current environment, as society is readjusting and
Mhm.
people are making statements about what's important to them and how they want to be treated, or what speaks value. And so being a business owner and being conscious of that is a part of being a good leader. And Ashley, can we go to the slide? So, what I want to talk to you about today in terms of being a good leader and being conscious from an organizational perspective in terms of delivering value to your customer base is about looking at your organization from a value chain perspective. What value do you offer? How is your business competitive? And this concept of the value chain was introduced in 1985 by Michael Porter. Michael Porter is a is from Harvard Business School, and he wrote a book titled The Competitive Advantage, creating and sustaining superior performance. And on the slide, what you're looking at is Michael's his overall visual. That visual is a map of the value chain analysis. And so within the value chain, if you look at the bottom, there are primary activities. There are 5 primary activities that is suggested that you look at when evaluating your business. And that are your inbound logistics, like how do you choose your if you're a product base, especially how are you choosing those materials and controlling what comes in? How do you control those costs and the quality, because that ultimately leads into your efficiencies of your business, as well as the customer experience, what that customer pays for your product. Are you streamlining operations as well and managing them to the point that, again, you have efficiencies in your business, that your customer experience is consistent because your operations are managed and well controlled. Um, the other component is also your outbound logistics. What is your delivery? What can customers expect in terms of your receiving or engaging with your product? Nothing is more important than now in this environment of home deliveries, of the virtual experience. A lot of people are getting things through the mail that maybe they typically would have walked into a retail service to get. And even if we look at training and development, that would be in person. But now you're having to deliver, that's an outbound process, that experience virtually. And so, how are you controlling and managing aspects of that for your business? Marketing and sales is also one of the primary activities. Your pricing, again, as a leader, you have to be mindful in this environment. People are looking for where's the best opportunity, where's the best pricing. Customer loyalty is key. People want to spend where they know they're going to get the best value, where they're valued, back as Pam said, in terms of culture, in terms of what their experience is with you. They want to spend their money where they feel they're being valued as a customer as well. And then the last area is services. What is your customer service like? What do they experience if they have to exchange something, or if they have a bad experience with you, if they need a refund? All of this is what Michael described as your primary activities or functions within your business. And this is something that, as a leader, we want to make sure that you're also looking at these operations to make sure that you're as competitive as possible. Because when you look at competing and being able to uh, go after opportunities, say with a corporate, you're buying into, when we connect with you as a partner, we're connecting to your value chain as well. And so you're an extension of who we are. And as you optimize your value and your customer experience, you're also lending to the value and the experience that we're able to offer to our customer base by partnering with you. So that is a little bit of information about the primary activities that the value chain highlights. We also want you to be mindful of the support activities. This is your infrastructure. How are you managing your business? What does your team look like? If there are certain professional licensings that your team should hold or does hold, you want to make sure you optimize on that, that you're communicating that to your customers to know that you've invested in making sure that you have the right staff on hand to give them that professional information or to deliver quality to them for their dollar. Again, it's about efficiencies and process, low pricing, and the optimum customer experience. Um, I touched a little bit on your human resource management, but your technology. How easy is it for your customers to engage? Or how easy is it for them to purchase online? Or your delivery of your information, how easy is that for customers to know who you are and where you are? Also, your procurement process. What is that? Are you managing your procurement processes so that your delivery times are maximized, or that you are making sure that your customers are getting um, that end product in quality time? All of this is a part of being a leader and making sure that you are delivering value, not just from a personal perspective and that engagement, but overall value is partnering, that human experience, soft skills, and so forth that Pam delivered on, that you're also doing it from an operational and a functional perspective so that your customers are receiving that optimum experience when they connect to your brand. So for me, Pam, that is the importance. You talked about the personal. I wanted to bring in together that operational perspective. And I think together we have the optimum leader.
Exactly. So I did want to share some information that Antoinette was kind enough to forward to me when we started talking about the session. We found what business leaders focus on in cultural competence, and there's 6 points they like to make, 6 predictable outcomes rather. So cultural competence, of course, creates rapport, creates understanding, creates an open opportunity for communication, and certainly helps you build community. The second one is that it improves efficiency that Glenda was speaking about when you're talking about operations, building good customer satisfaction for return visits, and obviously a return on your investment if you build good efficiencies within your system to keep your customers. The third one is it opens new markets and networks. So you have the capability and the capacity to build your business probably in other communities you never thought of, because your network is introducing you to possibly global opportunities or new contacts within the United States. The fourth one is making people feel valued, and building loyalty and repeat business, again, is very critical. There's one person I want to share with you. If you look at YouTube's a lot, Verna Myers of the Myers Company. Her name is spelled Verna, V-E-R-N-A, Myers, M-Y-E-R-S. Talks a lot about leadership, diversity, and she's very vibrant and very easy to listen to. So check out a lot of her YouTubes. She talks about repeat business and building loyalty. The fifth one on this predictable outcome is cultural competence is interesting, and interest creates innovation. So the more diverse team you have with a high emotional intelligence, not just IQ, helps to create that innovative mindset that builds cultural nuances into whatever your product is, so that you will have a huge variety of customers and clients. And the last one is cultural competence helps you avoid mistakes, miscommunication, and overall dissatisfaction with your clients and your community. So you do want to avoid the miscommunication, which can make you lose business. If you are inappropriate to people from certain cultures by being late, by being early, by saying appropriate things, or your body language gives inappropriate gesturing, you have to be mindful. So do your research about how different cultures communicate, respond to certain other nuances in varying cultures, and you can avoid those mistakes and continue to build your business and network, or net weaving.
Those are great points, Pam. And as I listened to the points that you were sharing, in our conversation overall, we can tie it back to Dr. Barnes. Her third point was be mindful, right? Just being mindful of who you're trying to serve, what it is you're trying to do, and making sure that you're respectful of that. I love it. I love the points. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Glenda.
Well, we have some questions. I'll keep diving in with questions, and I'm sure it'll springboard
Okay.
some other thoughts. So you talked a lot about being respectful, making sure you're tolerant, that you understand cultures. But as a leader, like there are a lot of times when you have to communicate tough information, reprimand employees or people you're working with. What are some tips, tools to help women find the right balance or strike the right balance in order to make sure that they are, um, yeah, like getting people to the result that they expect?
Mhm. So one thing I learned years ago in patient safety, when you talk with patients and their families, there's something we do with our heads to show empathy. We do this, oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize if I offended you. You do your head, that's a body language, and your voice changes. You soften your voice, okay? You soften your body language, like we're sitting up straight, trying to be seen appropriately, kind of soften your language. Have a seat, be on par with eye communication. Look people in the eye and say, I'm sorry if I've offended you, or I really would like to open this up for conversation because we're all here for the same goal. We want to meet the mission, values, and the integrity of our company. And that means that we have to build very solid, strong, and honest relationships. And that's where you're going to have to build in some vulnerability and some critical authenticity to let people know that you're simply human too, even though they report to you or you are the one, in essence, reprimanding and getting rid of words like punitive and reprimanding and calling people on the carpet. Just say, let's have a conversation. Let's just open this up because we're two people with the same goals, possibly not the same values, but we do share the goals of any company that we're building or that we work for, and have a conversation as human beings. Sometimes women come off very powerful and we like to be perfect, but I've learned in my years that being perfect is impossible. It is not built in our humanity to be perfect humans, okay? So we have to be vulnerable, let go of that ego, leave it in the car when you lock the door, and just be a human being and begin to build those kinds of relationships where people see you not as a peer, but as an understanding, empathetic, authentic human that they can feel comfortable working with, even though they report to you. So also hierarchy is a huge problem in our culture. People like to have their titles and degrees and all these things speak for them. Well, you know, if you lose your clients, you don't have a business, but you have all the letters behind your names and all these kinds of things. So we have to be mindful that our humanity will always come to the table first. So we have to start from a place of humanity as human women, knowing that we have to be successful. We want to be successful and we want to bring people to the table with us. I hope that helped.
That was great. Glenda, did you want to add anything?
Pam, she described it very well in terms of being authentic and having empathy. I think so much of our culture has said that as women, we cannot, show vulnerability or display who we are from a emotional perspective. But I think it's important that as a leader, even delivering that tough conversation, that you're authentic and transparent and knowing that ultimately it's about the goal, it's about the work and not the individual, and that it's intended to help. And I believe that when we deliver it from that perspective, that we're going to build up. I've gone through a very recently and still in the process of, looking inward, where are my gaps? And when we can look at that, to look in the mirror and turn that around for positive transformation, then it's a little easier, one, to even deliver those tough conversations, but to receive them when we're on the other end. So being transparent, coming from an authentic place and being able to communicate that with empathy, as Pam said, to let the other woman know, I think it's so important when we say, I see you.
Yes.
And we can say that without even making, saying those exact words, but being able to communicate that in a way that says, and I see you and I understand your journey. We have this goal and this is how, there may be a gap here, but this is how we're going to close it and help get to ultimately not just the goal, but to help you grow as you work towards achieving that goal. And I think that will soften that conversation. I think as women, we don't trust, and, rightfully so, because how our experiences in society, and when we've shown that vulnerability, it's been knocked down. But I think moving forward and culturally, it's going to be important because more and more women are coming into leadership roles more and more. It's not just the hair that is being revealed, but we're revealing who we are as true women, as moms, as, caretakers and so forth. And that vulnerability is going to come through, and we're able to show that we can be strong,
right,
despite that, right? But again, back to the transparency and the empathy, being authentic is really how you make those conversations. People can receive them and move forward toward the goals.
Glenda, I have a question. And I want to go back to the value chain that you talked about, all the 5 components.
Yes.
I was wondering, is there a way as business owners to really assess your value chain? You know how they have the SWOT analysis? Is there a way that you can kind of assess or analyze so you know where you need to build upon in any of those 5 different areas? Is it some kind of resource or a test or an analysis that we could take that could help us as we build our businesses, focusing on the areas that we need to really maximize or increase the efficiency of?
Yes, well, in Michael Porter's book, that is the whole focus and foundation. He goes through those 5 areas, but primarily what it is taking each operational area of your business and kind of looking at the value. If we use Starbucks as an example, when Starbucks, in terms of their operations, you know, if you look at your inbound logistics or picking your product, they pick the highest quality beans and they control where those beans come from. They don't just take them from any provider. So they're managing that quality and what comes in, and by having very specific partners that they purchase from on a consistent basis. There's also an exchange that allows for efficiencies and some people may not think so in terms of pricing for a cup of coffee, but they are managing those efficiencies for that quality. And every business owner can do that and take the components of their operations and, you know, dive into it and say, okay, am I getting the best quality for my price in this area? Do I have the best employee in this area for what I'm paying them, for what the output from that employee is? So the answer is yes, we can do it. And for those that are interested, we can also come together and develop some information for them.
That's
And
great.
I also have a question I want to refer to Pam. And thank you for being my twin with the pen. I love that color. I love the pen. Beautiful. Thank you. I want to know about when we talk about being culturally competent, especially in our businesses, as we are doing business with all kinds of nationalities. I remember having a business meeting with 2 people, and one of the guys was from, I think, India, and he did not look me in the eyes. He didn't want to make contact with me like whatsoever. So I felt the bias right away. But I want to say that, so body language in terms of really building cultural competence is very important. And how as business owners, I mean, sometimes we just don't know as we try to do national and international business, any tips or resources that you can provide to us to make sure that we kind of stay on top of the game. Because, for example, I like reading a book called Art of Seduction. And fun reading about mindsets and people. But any tip you can give us as business owners that so we can kind of master this component as we do business with all kind of people all over the world?
Well, definitely, Antoinette, we have to do our research. There's a lot of cultural research out here today that we can find thanks to Google and Safari and all of our internet resources and Chrome. We have to hone in on what is appropriate for business etiquette in various cultures. I saw one in an article I was looking at. I pull a lot of information from Culture Wizard. They have a lot of information, for example, the one on what smiling means in different cultures. In some cultures, children are taught not to look at parents in the eye in Asian cultures. So that can parlay into as they move into adulthood. It might not be that he was attempting to let you know that he didn't respect you, because that's what we're kind of socialized and acculturated to understand. From being raised, he was probably taught not to look anyone in the eye that maybe was not a family member, or anyone in authority that is, he was probably in competition with, doing business with. You don't look people in the eye. So we can misread body language and cues based on what we're told in society as opposed to what we learn in valid evidence-based research. So make sure you do your research. I remember growing up, my mother was a fourth grade teacher. We traveled a lot, thank goodness, because I'm not going anywhere right now. But she always said, in any culture, learn how to at least say thank you, you're welcome, good morning, goodbye, and where's the restroom? So those are the basic things that we know. But when we talk about the cultural component, when you can at least speak to someone in their own language, that shows a tremendous respect for where you are, where you're going, how you want them to see you as a respected American business partner, because most people have a very hugely dim view of Americans, especially right now. But it kind of always has been, because we're all wealthy, right? So of course, everyone on the webinar is wealthy. We come from a culture where we're wasteful. We don't value much of anything outside of what we deem appropriate and for our families and ourselves. So we have to be mindful how people look at us. So do your research. There's nothing better than doing your research, along with maybe talking with people from the same culture that you're going to visit or going to have a business meeting with, keeping in mind that their bias may impact how you see that person. So just really count on research, and maybe research from that company as to how their etiquette is what they're telling their people to communicate with Americans. There has to be something also there that says how Americans would be more appropriate to communicate with them.
That's such a great point. I remember going to Japan, and basically when you greet someone, you bow, but the person who is the more senior does not bow as far as the person who's less senior.
Yes.
So someone bowed to me, I bowed back, they bowed again, but they kept going deeper and deeper. You guys, I was like, oh shoot. After a second, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that fact. So after about 5 times we bowed, I was like, I'm sure he was like, I wish he would get the point here, but there is something to like do it. I mean, and I got it after that. I was like, I was the American executive in the country. I was like, we definitely are not bowing as low as we did before. So I got it, like, clearly, and not as many times, but there is something to really like, you know, researching and understanding some of those, you know, like cultural differences. Hey, one of the questions that came through is, when you started setting up, and this was really collectively, the elements that are important for a leader. Like, I started making a list that was super long. Like, you, as a leader, you need to build community, you need to deliver value, you need to manage partners, provide superior service, maintain your business infrastructure in a strong way, provide direction. When and how, as a leader, do you go and get help? And because the reality is, it's really hard to be super solid at everything.
Right.
Even though you might be like very proficient in many areas, what are some rules of thumb, some suggestions? Because I feel like most people let themselves flounder a little bit and get frustrated before they get the help. But like, any advice or any words you would give?
Glenda, I've been talking.
So,
Feel free.
I was going to say, I think the consummate leader is always looking for help. They will know how to formulate that help and to deliver it through, their business or through their decision making. But I don't see that as, you have to be in the know. And just as we are collaborating today, we're receiving information. A true leader is always looking for help or information. Not so much that they're being told how to deliver, but being informed, having conversations. They're having a checkpoint, kind of a litmus test too, to see, what's happening. You can be groomed in a certain, a segment of leadership or society as you grow up in certain culture and norms, but things are changing. There's changing in terms of your customer base, they're changing in terms of your employees. And so as a leader, to always be in touch and informed is valuable. So I don't look at the help as being I don't know how to do this, but more so, I'm staying informed, I'm staying connected. And so I look at it from that perspective. And I think it's the greatest sign of a strong leader is one who knows um, I do need help, or I would like to be informed, more informed on a topic, or a process. So
That's excellent.
Yes, absolutely. I could share that we're not really sharing vulnerability when we go to our network to ask for help, because I mean I've been building a network since undergrad, so that's been a long time. So I have a lot of folks there are a lot of people in my circle that I can call on for so many different pieces. For example, my strong suit is not math, and I think I'm okay with that now in this part of my life. So when I need help with something, I called former colleagues from Los Alamos National Lab, which is how Antoinette and I met years ago. So when I need help with formulas and different things, I know people who can say, okay, let me work on that for you, and I'll shoot it back to you in a text or email. And then I look intelligent, but I go to my network to make sure that I am on point, that I have what I need, and that they know they can come to me. So that network is critical. Burning bridges is no good. That's where the emotional intelligence comes in, to be able to accept when you are in a weaker position. Acknowledging that and respecting that makes you stronger, because you are able to receive information from your colleagues and your peers.
The last question I have, and you guys, I would encourage everyone to send in questions. Let us know you're still there. Send an emoji, something through. Is around you. I think you made the comment, Pam, around diversity is important, and maybe it was you, Glenda, or both of you made it. But for a lot of us that are small businesses, we have a dual responsibility of not only hiring great talent, but we also feel the heft of hiring Black talent, because we know if we don't step out there and hire them, that they have a lower possibility of getting hired from other companies. So as you think through diversity and the need to build, companies and broaden our reach, what are some words of advice you would give around hiring, staffing, and, as a Black leader, how do you make sure you strike the right balance?
I would say that in terms of your hiring and your processes, you want to bring on what is going to be, again, to my topic today, the value to your business. Making sure that you are, if it's an African American person, it may be a Caucasian male, but if they're bringing ultimately value to your business, then that is the direction that you should go. Um, Opportunities for, diverse owned businesses do hire at a higher percentage minorities, other minorities, and that's okay. For me, I say if you're not targeting, but that is what you attract, and it brings the value into your business, then I think it's fine. We don't owe an explanation, but I believe that if we position them even to be able to grow within our organization, to move, maybe they want to go onto something else, and that stop within our business gives them that experience, or that leverage to move to something else that they want to do, then that's our purpose. But I think that it is okay within our society to say, if this is who they're attracted to, who they want to work with, just as in any other culture, that it is not something that we should have to contemplate
Yeah.
heavily. It is something that we just do and move forward. And sometimes it's from the perspective, if we don't, where would they go?
Right.
But again, being able to give them those skill sets that maybe make them more attractive at another level or within another opportunity. If that's what we're able to offer, then that's the value we are bringing to our community.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything you guys are saying, and I will share. I try to find people who are subject matter experts.
Mhm.
And so if you really are bringing a knowledge base that I don't have as a leader, I find that that's really added value.
That's right.
And if and that in itself allows me to stretch out of like my current paradigm versus finding people who are really nice and fun to work with, but I'm stretching them to deliver against work that I need versus them being a little bit ahead on me on certain bodies of work. So and I find that if I stick with the subject matter expert and someone who has the same value and work ethics as me, it usually is a win-win. Like I'm in love with my new hire I just hired. And yeah, I just feel like we get it because we're trying to deliver the same quality. So that's great. Any additional questions, you guys? I haven't seen any more come through, but I would love, Pam and Glenda, if you guys could give us, like, if you were to give one advice to us as entrepreneurs around this whole theme of leadership, what would be that one piece of advice that you would give us?
Well, I will share that we have to learn how to take time to self-reflect. What's really important? What are we genuinely trying to achieve as opposed to what others expect for us to achieve or put on our shoulders to achieve? Because at some point in your life, as Antoinette did a long time ago, she stepped out on faith. She became her authentic person. She self-reflected and pulled We Up together. So, I mean, that is the perfect example that I can ever come up with. I've had all these ideas and dreams, and Antoinette knows that I have accomplished none of them, but at this point, not to the level that I would love to have. But at this point, working in an environment such as Duke, I've learned to be my own leader, regardless of how other people perceive or try to attempt to make me. Because at this point in my life, I've made decisions about how I'm moving forward and how I share the authenticity of things that I do have to tone down sometimes and not say everything I want to say to certain groups of people, and let them understand that in my humanity, I'm respecting our difference and honor who they are. But sometimes I have to be authentic and say certain things in a warm, head to the side place and let people know. So self-reflect, know who you are, know what your genuine purpose is and what you have to share and give to then build on other people. And I'll end my comment with a quote from John Coltrane. I love jazz, I love music. One positive thought produces millions of positive vibrations. And that's what we want to give to our community and to our world. Thank you.
Yes,
Awesome.
that was awesome, Pam. And I almost want to say ditto. But you know, I was so glad to hear your closing thought on leadership, and because the first thought that I had was trust yourself. As you began this journey, you knew inside that what you had to deliver and what you had to give, what your value and your offering would be to your customer base or people you engaged with. And so trust what is inside. You want to support it with the knowledge that is available, with the networking that is available, but also know that what you stepped out on is what is authentically intended for you. It may be somebody else who is doing it, but they cannot do it your way. They cannot deliver it with your passion. They cannot bring your innovation. So I just say trust who you are. And I don't have a quote for that, but I love what Pam said from Coltrane. So ditto.
Wonderful.
That's beautiful, you guys. That's awesome. Well, I will go into housekeeping really quick to get everybody like prepared. We are actually rolling into, it's lunchtime, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So you guys have a 30-minute break. You're going into lunch. We've seen a few people post. I mean, you know, let's get to it, you guys, and start to drum up some of this social media and the conversation around learning, building businesses, leading from the front, ensuring that it's conversation. I mean, we've gone through a lot of topics today, understanding politics and getting at the forefront. Just post something and give us a hashtag of We Op Women. The prizes are real, you guys. So I want to make sure you have an opportunity to win that. We will turn on a little clock. It's 30 minutes. You know the link to come back on at 12:30, and we will dive in and get started into our topic. So let's see, there's another slide next. We're covered? Okay, yes. So thank you, Pam. Thank you, Glenda. Thank you, Antoinette, for coming with some of those strong questions as well. But you guys, we learn by talking to you and the insights you shared around leadership. I could talk forever just to try to recap, but I think you did it perfectly. So thank you so much, you guys. Enjoy lunch and we'll see you at 12:30.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Pam.